So today we're going to be taking a look at the Steel Navigator from Marathon Watches. I've had the watch a few weeks now, and actually just got back from a week-long trip to Costa Rica, where this was one of my go-to watches during that week. So I've got a pretty good feel for the watch now. It is not perfect, but it's not all that far off from it. So let's get to it and check out the watch. Now, quick backstory on the watch. The originals came out in 1986 and were designed by the current chief watchmaker, as well as the father of the current president of Marathon Watches, for the Kelly Air Force Base, and was used by the US and Canadian military up until the 90s. I took a deeper dive into the history of these watches quite a while back in the previous video, so I won't do that again today, but it's kind of a neat rabbit hole to go down if you are interested. This modern version of the watch is similar with its asymmetrical case design, but there's been some changes to the contour of the case and lots of little tweaks here and there, as well as the addition of an upgraded quartz movement we'll talk about here soon. Someday I'd love to own one of the original Adanac models, and if ever I do, a side-by-side will definitely happen. The dial does not leave much in the way of open spaces. It's pretty busy, but still manages to stay very legible. In the upper area of the dial is Marathon printed in white. Then on either side of the dial at the 9 and 6, the symbol H3 and the radiation symbol, which refers to the tritium tubes on the hands and markers. The H3 actually stands for hydrogen 3, which is tritium. So we've got both the 12 and 24-hour markers, the minute track with the tritium tubes at every hour. Then over at the 4:30 is the date. The hour and minute hands are syringe style hands with the red tipped second hand, which is pretty well hitting those markers spot on, which is always good to see. That's never been a deal breaker for me, but at this price point in a quartz, you should expect to get that. The watch is using tritium tubes, and there's something you need to experience to fully appreciate. It doesn't have that initial blast of brightness, but if you look at the watch, especially after your eyes are adjusted to the darkness, you won't have any trouble getting the time. They do have a half-life of 12 years, so over time it will get dimmer, but it works great. And I like that they've gone with the orange marker at the 12 to help with orientation of the watch in low light. The bezel is a bidirectional 90-click bezel and can be used to track a second time zone, and you could easily use it as a regular timing bezel too. It's got a crispy feel, but it's not as clicky sounding as you'd expect considering the feel of the action. Give it a turn here. No issues with grip at all. It's easy to turn and maybe even a bit too easy. Every once in a while, I'll look down at the time and the bezel can get knocked out of place by a few minutes sometimes. Not often, but I've seen it out 4 or 5 minutes a few times now, and I think the bezel grip might catch my pocket or something to make that happen. The case has a parkerized finish, which is a process to protect the steel from corrosion. The end result is this bead blasted finish that just adds to the overall tooly look of the watch. The case has that very curvy side profile that sits really well on wrist, and we've got drilled lugs for easy strap changes. The crown is an unsigned screw down crown and is protected by that bit of extra bulge to that side of the case, and overall I just love that look. Lots of info happening here on the Caseback. I won't go through everything, but we've got numbers galore, including the NSN number, which is the national stock number, the control number, serial number, all kinds of numbers, including the strength of the radiation in the watch, which is 26 millicuries. The coolest part of it is the old school battery hatch, though, with that small maple leaf engraved, which is a little nod to the country they and myself are from, Canada. Under the hood here is the ETA F06.412 heavy drive, press drive quartz movement, and this is not your typical quartz movement. It is accurate to plus or minus 10 seconds per year. They don't go into specifics on the site, but they mention that this has been customized specifically for Marathon. It is extremely shock resistant, and when it takes a hit, there's actually a motor that counters the impact, stopping the second hand from skipping and gaining or losing time. There's also a steel movement holder secured by 3 screws, and to top it all off, the movement is thermocompensated to reduce fluctuations in accuracy from extreme temperatures. Now, I've been wearing this watch mostly on the strap from Artem straps that I've been showing the watch on so far in this video, and I love Artem straps. It's a really top-notch strap, good pairing for the watch I found. I have to say I am not a big fan of the nylon destin strap that came on mine. I'm more of a two-piece strap guy to begin with, but the big problem for me is when you try to fold the strap back through the keepers, there isn't enough room for it to fit back through this first one. You can see the left one is actually a little bit taller. So you end up with this loop, and I found that it kept getting caught on things and opening up. I prefer to fold mine back through both of the keepers. Just can't do that with this one. And the material isn't the greatest either. Oh, losing focus here. Pretty decent hardware. But for me, the strap pretty much immediately came off the watch. And I think that's going to be the case for a lot of people. The size on the watch comes in at a case width of 41.4 millimeters. The lug to lug is an even 48 millimeters. Lug opening is 20 millimeters and the thickness is 10.9 millimeters. Water resistance is 100 meters and the crystal is sapphire, but without an anti-reflective coating, which especially on a utility watch like this would have been better, but yeah, no AR unfortunately. And here is a look on my 7.25-inch wrist, and especially on a two-piece strap, these sit so good on wrist. It made for a great vacation watch last week. Took it on a few adventures and it held up great. I didn't so much get a band-aid on the finger there, but if you want to check out our trip, I'll leave a link below. Had an amazing time visiting Costa Rica. Now, as far as cost goes, these start at 800 USD depending on your strap choice. Yep, up there for Quartz watch, but I love this thing. Marathon do have occasional sales, so you might want to keep an eye out for a discount at some point, but I think this is such a cool watch. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Appreciate you taking a few minutes to stop by, and we'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.